Phnom Penh is the capital and most populous city of Cambodia. It has been the national capital since the French Protectorate of Cambodia and has grown to become the nation's economic, industrial, and cultural center. Phnom Penh was founded in year 1434 to succeed Angkor Thom as the capital of the Khmer nation, but was abandoned several times before being re-established in year 1865 by King Norodom. The city formerly functioned as the processing center with textiles, pharmaceuticals, machine manufacturing, and rice milling. Its chief assets, however, were cultural. Institutions of higher learning included the Royal University of Phnom Penh, established in year 1960 as Royal Khmer University, with School of Engineering, Fine Arts, Technology, and Agricultural Science, the latter of Cham Katong, a suburb, also located in Phnom Penh, with the Royal University of Agronomic Sciences and the Agricultural School of Brooklyn. Once known as the Birth of Asia, it was considered one of the loveliest French-built cities in Indochina in the year 1920s. Phnom Penh, along with Siem Reap and Sihanoukville, are significant global and domestic tourist destinations for Cambodia. Founded in 1372, the city is noted for its historical, architectural, and attractions. It became the national capital in year 1434, following the fall of Angkor, and remained so until 1497. It regained its capital status during the French colonial era in year 1865. There are a number of surviving colonial era buildings scattered along the Grand Boulevards. On the banks of Tonle Sap, Mekong, and Basak rivers, Phnom Penh is home to more than 2 million people, approximately 14% of the Cambodian population. The area of Phnom Penh area includes the nearby Tak Mau city and some districts of Kantong province. Phnom Penh takes its name from the present Wat Phnom, or from the former Funan Kingdom, an ancient kingdom that existed from the 1st to the 7th century AD in Southeast Asia, and the forerunner of the current Cambodian monarchy. Legend has it that in year 1372, a wealthy widow named Pen found a cookie tree floating down the Tonle Sap River after a storm. Inside the tree were 4 bronze Buddha statues and a stone statue of Vishnu. Ben ordered villagers to raise the height of the hill northeast of her house and use a cookie wood to build a temple on the hill to house the 4 Buddha statues, and a shrine for the Vishnu image slightly lower down. The temple became known as Wat Phnom Dao Pen, which is now known as Wat Phnom, a small hill 27 meters in height. Phnom Penh's former official name is Krong Chaktomuk Seray Mongkol. Krong Chaktomuk is an abbreviation of the full name which was given by the King Pong Hiya. Krong Chaktomuk Mongkol Sakan Cambodia Thi Padai Seray Tegrik Bava Intapat Bore Road Rich Saima Mohanokor. This loosely translates as the place of 4 rivers that gives the happiness and success of the Khmer kingdom, the highest leader as well as impregnable city of the god Indra of the Great Kingdom. The initial settlement of Phnom Penh is believed to have been established since the 5th century AD, according to the discovery of ancient king site in Jom Ek Mill of Dangao district, southern part of the central Phnom Penh in the early year 2000. Jom Ek archaeological site was one of the largest scale pottery centers in Cambodia, and the earliest known kiln site in Southeast Asia to produce a ceremonial vessel known as candy from the 5th to 13th century. Archaeology stated that A large community is surrounded by a circular earthwork structure that is 740 miles in diameter and 4 miles high, built in the 11th century. In addition, there are remnants of the other ancient village infrastructure, irrigation system, inscription Shivalinga, as well as an ancient brick temple foundation, and its only remains which date back to Funan era. First recorded a century after it is said to have taken place, the legend of the founding of Phnom Penh tells of the local woman Ben, commonly referred as Dao Ben, Lady Ben in Khmer, living at Jaktamuk, the future Phnom Penh. It was the late 14th century and the Khmer capital was still at Angkor near Siem Reap, 350 km to the north. Gathering firewood along the banks of the river, Lady Ben spied a floating cookie tree in the river and fished it from the water. Inside the tree, she found 4 Buddha statues and 1 Vishnu. The discovery was taken as a divine blessing, and to some aside that the Khmer capital was to be brought to Phnom Penh from Angkor. To house the new found sharp objects, Ben raised a small hill on the west bank of the Tonle Sap River and crowned it with a shrine now known as Wat Nom, as the north-east of central Phnom Penh. Phnom is Khmer for hill, and Ben's hill took on the name of the founder, and the area around it became known after the hill. Phnom Penh first became the capital of Cambodia after Bonghiya, king of the Khmer Empire, moved the capital from Angkor Thom after it was captured and destroyed by Siam a few years earlier. There is a stupa behind Wat Phnom that houses the remains of Bonghiya and the royal family, as well as the remaining Buddhist statues from the Angkorian era. In the 7th century, Japanese immigrants also settled on the outskirts of present-day Phnom Penh. A small Portuguese community survived from Phnom Penh until the 17th century, undertaking commercial and religious activity in the country. Phnom Penh remained the royal capital for 73 years, from 1432 to 1505. It was abandoned for 360 years, from 1505 to 1865, by subsequent kings due to internal fighting between the royal pretenders. Later kings moved the capital several times and established their royal capital towns at various locations at Thun Pasan, Shay Santor, Pusat, Longfek, La Vie Im, and Udong. It was not until 1866, under the Grand King Norodom I, 1860 to 1904, the eldest son of King Angdong, who ruled on behalf of Siam, that Phnom Penh became the permanent seat of government and capital of Cambodia, and also where the current royal palace was built. Beginning in year 1870, the French colonial authorities turned a riverside village into a city, where they built hotels, schools, prisons, barracks, banks, public works office, telegraph office, law courts, and house service buildings. In year 1872, the first glimpse of modern city took shape when the colonial administration employed the service of French contractor Le Faucheux to construct the first 300 concrete houses for sale and rental to Chinese traders. By the year 1920s, Phnom Penh was known as the birth of Asia, and over the next 4 decades, Phnom Penh continued to experience rapid growth with the building of railways to Sihanoukville and Bouchentong International Airport. Phnom Penh's infrastructure saw major modernization under the rule of Sihanouk. During the Vietnam War, Cambodia was used as a base by the People's Army of Vietnam and the Viet Cong, and thousands of refugees from across the country fled to the city escape the fighting between their own government troops, the People's Army of Vietnam, the Viet Cong, the South Vietnamese and their allies, the Khmer Rouge, and American air strikes. By year 1975, the population was 2 to 3 million, the bulk of whom were refugees from the fighting. The Khmer Rouge cut off supplies to the city for more than a year before it fell on April 17 in the year 1775. Reports from journalists state that the Khmer Rouge silently tortured the capital almost continuously, inflicting random death and mutilation on millions of trapped civilians. The Khmer Rouge forcibly evacuated the entire city after taking it in what has been described as the Death March. Van Gogh wrote that, "I shall never forget a cripple who had neither hands nor feet. Written along the ground like several warm oil weeping father carrying his 10-year-old daughter wrapped in a sheet tied around his neck like a sling, or the man with his foot dangling at the end of a leg to which it was attached by nothing but skin." Johnson recalled that the Khmer Rouge were tipping our patients from the hospitals like garbage into the street. The 5 years of war, this is the greatest caravan of human misery I have seen. All of these residents, including the wealthy and educated, were evacuated from the city and forced to do difficult labor or rural farms as new people. Tuon Slang High School was taken over by Pol Pot's forces and was turned into the extremely first prison camp, where people were detained and tortured. Pol Pot sought a return to an agrarian economy and therefore killed many people perceived as educated, lazy, spies, or political enemies. Many others starved to death as a result of failure of agrarian society and the scale of the Cambodians' rights to China is urgent for police and weaponry. The former high school is now Tuon Sanh Genocide Museum, where Khmer Rouge torture devices and photos of their victims are displayed. Jong Uk, the color views 50 kilometers away, where the Khmer Rouge mass prisoners from Tuon Slang to be murdered and buried in silent peace, is also now a memorial to those who were killed by the regime. The Khmer Rouge was driven from Phnom Penh by the People's Army of Vietnam in 1979, and people began to return to the city. Vietnam is a historical state in which Cambodia has many conflicts, therefore liberation was and is viewed with mixed emotions by the Cambodians. A period of reconstruction began, spurred by the continuing stability of the government, attracting new foreign investment and aid by the countries including France, Australia, and Japan. Loans were made from the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank to reinstate a clean water supply, roads, and other infrastructure. The 1998 census put Phnom Penh's population at 862,000 and the year 2008 census was 3.3 million. By 2019, its population reached over 2.2 million based on general population census. As per Wikipedia.org,